A beautiful woman carries 2 guns at her sides and smiles as she approaches the building where the 12th Zodiac Tournament is being held. But as she walks past other deserted buildings, she laments. The city was once, very recently, home to 500,000 people. As she walks up the stairs, she recalls the ruthlessness of her father's training, and she also remembers how her father chose her younger sister to represent the Boar family in the tournament over her. At first, she acted cool with his decision, but she had a more subtle plan waiting to unfold. She manipulates her sister's love for killing things and set her on a killing spree to prove her worthiness to become a suitable boar warrior. The relentless, murderous training eventually took its toll on her and led her sister to kill herself, and she became the next to represent the Boar family. She walks majestically into the room to the waiting 11 other Zodiac warriors and introduces herself as the Boar. She scans the room for any possible threats. To her surprise, she sees a dead warrior and another warrior with blood all over his sword who denies any involvement with the death. Nevertheless, she disregards all of that as she's only focused on starting the tournament. The tournament referee, Juni, welcomes them to the 12th Zodiac Tournament and asks that everyone take a jewel from the cups before them and swallow it. Only after they've swallowed it, they're informed that the jewel contains a slow-acting poison. They must win the tournament to receive the antidote. All the rules and regulations are listed, and the battleground is open for the war to begin. Juni disappears to allow the warriors to battle. But as soon as he leaves, the monkey warrior suggests that there's a way that they could all survive this. The winner of the tournament will be granted one wish, and the idea running through everyone's head is that the winner wish them all back to life. They have their doubts, but a few of them are pretty quick to ally themselves with the monkey warrior. But before a consensus can be reached, someone causes something like an earthquake, collapsing the floor from beneath them. The boar is delighted, as she wasn't buying the idea of a hero saving all of them. And as she wonders who caused the earthquake, she's faced with the rabbit warrior. Without anyone else in sight to battle with, she plans her attack against him in her head. She strategizes how she will use her non-reload infinite fire on him. To begin the duel, she introduces herself as Inoshishi, the warrior of the boar, killing bountifully, and the rabbit responds as Usagi, warrior of the rabbit, killing psychotically. But as she dashes to start her planned attack, someone grabs her from behind, and the rabbit immediately draws a sword and strikes her chest. When she turns back to see who it is, it's the dead warrior. Shocked, she realizes there's a necromancer among them. Now the boar is dead, and Usagi has her jewel. But more importantly, he has magically made her lifeless body a part of his warrior team. With the boar and snake warrior as walking corpses, ready to do his bidding, the necromantist has a formidable team. 2 other warriors are walking down a deserted street, bewildered that the whole city was cleared out for a night. They decide to team up, following the suggestion of the monkey warrior, and think it best to lay low for a while. In the sewer, the first warrior introduces herself as Sharyu, the warrior of the monkey, killing peacefully, and the other responds as Nezumi, warrior of the rat, killing all. Nezumi suspects Sharyu was responsible for the earthquake. She confirms his suspicions, but doesn't give further details. The dog warrior finds a quiet parking lot to stay in. In his case, his body produces antivenom to protect himself from his own poisonous fangs. When the jewels were ingested, he was able to neutralize the effect of the poison, so he's ready to hide out for a long time. But while he's preparing his secret spot, the chicken warrior locates him using a bird and asks for his partnership. The chicken introduces herself as Niwatori, warrior of the chicken, killing by pecking, and the dog responds as Dotsuku, warrior of the dog, killing by biting. Both warriors become a team when Dotsuku learns that a necromantist is in their midst, so they begin their search to find the necromantist. When the duo realizes that the rabbit team has separated, they target the boar first. Dotsuku prepares Niwatori for battling the boar using his one-man army bite on her. This bite will make the chicken warrior draw out all her power and be able to face the boar. Unfortunately, her first target is Dotsuku, as she pecks his head to the wall. The chicken warrior, Niwatori, once lost her memory when she was younger, but was certain she had a hand in her parents' death, and that of many others. Under close monitoring by a hospital, her abilities with birds were revealed. She was adopted and then trained as a warrior. Now she intends to use those very skills on the boar warrior, her next target. She's pleased to have the one-man army boost she received from Dotsuku, but for her attack on boar, she summons birds to fight for her. Niwatori has a special skill that she uses to control birds. The birds go on a rampage against the boar warrior, eating her flesh even as she tries to use her non-reload ability on them. She's defeated in short order. As Niwatori goes into a store to get snacks, she encounters Nezumi, who also came for foodstuffs for the sewer hideout. He seems glad to have run into her and offers to take her to the hideout, considering she was ready to ally with Monkey at the beginning. Upon arriving at the sewer camp, Sharyu welcomes Niwatori and is eager to make her a part of their team. But Niwatori seems to have trust issues and concludes that she can't stay. In fact, she had an impulse to kill Sharyu, but changed her mind all of a sudden, which is unusual for her. As she leaves the sewer, she wonders why Sharyu's empathetic approach is affecting her. Almost immediately, she remembers that the one-man army poison not only strengthens her powers, but heightens every other sense too. Her thoughtful moment doesn't last long, as she's unexpectedly faced with another warrior, the Ox. Ushi seems to have killed another warrior, as he's covered in blood, and he looks ready for another kill. He asks Niwatori if she knows the whereabouts of any other warriors, but her response sounds defensive, betraying her guile. For a moment, she thinks she's a match against Ushi, but before she even makes a move, he goes directly for her head with a big strike. As she collapses to the ground, he slices through her stomach and takes the one thing every warrior in this tournament holds dear, her jewel. Without a sword, Sharyu, the monkey warrior, perfectly cuts through a rock as she faces her three masters on a mountaintop. It's a remarkable time for her masters, as they commend her skills in transmuting any substance between physical states. With this level of expertise, her training is now over, and she's free to go out into the world and use her power. To her master's surprise, she decides to use her powers to bring peace into the world. Hence, her journey as a pacifist begins. Nezumi lay in the subterranean hideout and shares his thoughts on Niwatori with Sharyu. He points out that she's probably dead already, and if she is dead, he believes that Sharyu had a role in it. One of the things he senses Monkey Warrior can do is reform people, which was what she did with Niwatori. Niwatori was already a timid warrior, and her conversation with Sharyu made her weaker, unsuited to someone looking to survive the tournament. He then tells her to not bother trying to reform him. They conclude their discourse on that subject, and Sharyu remembers how she contributed to the peace of over 300 international and 200 civil wars. Her recent contribution to the peace between two warring nations was successful until the ceasefire proved counterproductive for both countries. Nezumi comments she has genuinely saved so many people that, unfortunately, she would have saved a lot of the wrong people in the process. She invalidates this thought. She knows she's had past failures, but she's on a path to getting along with everyone in the world. As she continues to reminisce, she hears a strange sound in the tunnel. Alarmed, she wakes Nezumi and packs up to flee. As they run, a flock of flying corpse birds are on their tail. They successfully find an escape route out of the sewer, but the dead snake warrior strikes at her as she comes out to the surface. Fortunately, she's nimble enough to dodge it, and she realizes he isn't alone. Nezumi also comes up to the surface, and they face the necromancer and his dead warrior. Sharyu analyzes the situation quickly and asks Nezumi to confront the dead warrior while she fights with the rabbit warrior. Surprised, Nezumi asks if she will really fight, as she's all about peace. But as her name implies, Sharyu, the monkey warrior, killing peacefully, she's ready to resist. The tournament referee, Dudakupel, appears before a group of anonymous people who he refers to as VIPs. They all look through the tournament statistics and each player's performance. According to their forecast, the likely last three warriors are the ox, the monkey, and the rabbit. However, the referee recommends that they begin officially betting on their preferred candidate only when the remaining players are down to 6. The sheep, who had once won the tournament when he was younger, hides in a room and plans his next move. Like the VIPs, by his assessment, the top 3 warriors are the ox, rabbit, and monkey, so he isn't thinking of facing any of them. Also, as an older man, he wants to avoid facing the weakest ones, or form a team with the irrelevant warriors on his list if he wants to appear strong. So he decides to focus on the middle warriors, the boar, dog, and horse. Sharyu and Nezumi still face their opponents, the rabbit and the dead snake. The snake takes off, and Nezumi follows, while Sharyu confronts Usagi, the rabbit warrior. Sharyu tries all she can to make him see why a peace treaty will work in this battle. He pauses his attack. She thinks he's ready to hear her out, but no. He summons his dead birds from the sewer to swarm the monkey warrior. The sheep warrior is still deliberating who to attack, as he remembers how he was a one-time winner of a previous tournament. But now he's older, and he can't be as fast and strong as he used to be, and would need to be more cunning. He didn't swallow the jewel, so he has time to hide and plan. But before he's able to hammer out a comprehensive plan, a visitor approaches his room, the ox warrior. Narrowly, the sheep escapes, and works out that he'll promise to help the other warriors remove the poison from their stomachs in exchange for their partnership. His first targets are the boar, dog, and horse. Nezumi and the snake warrior are still chasing one another, and Nezumi wonders how a headless corpse can detect his presence. But he quickly realizes that the snake can sense movement through vibration, which is one of the skills that has helped him this far. Sharyu is still battling zombie birds, and the rabbit warrior dashes in for an attack. Meanwhile, the sheep warrior moves along, looking for his first target, as he silently prays not to encounter the weaker warriors. Unfortunately for him, the first warrior he meets is the weakest according to his list, the tiger. Instead of attacking her, he plans to ignore her, as she looks useless and drunk. But as he wallows in his thoughts, the tiger senses his presence and calls him out. The tiger warrior insists that the sheep come out of his hiding place, and he reluctantly faces the drunken tiger. The tiger's in a terribly drunken state, almost incoherent, and she also isn't seeing the sheep warrior clearly, making him more furious. Meanwhile, the horse warrior, Uma, has lost all hope in the battle, since he couldn't stand up against the ox. He barricades himself in a vault to stay hidden until the war ends. The rabbit is still attacking the monkey, until all of a sudden he starts moving away. She isn't going to lose track of him this time, so she pursues him. As they fight along the way, she notices he isn't an excellent martial arts warrior, and she could easily defeat him. But before she could make her next move, he ends her, using a professional technique she never expected from him. Before she collapses, she sees the snake's head on a nearby tree, which explains how he could see from behind. The sheep warrior is tired of the tiger warrior dilly-dally and gets set to bring out his bomb to finish her off. But first, he introduces himself as Itsuji, the sheep warrior, killing deceptively. And to begin the duel, the tiger responds as Tora, the tiger warrior, killing in a drunken rage. Before he could process that she said drunken rage, she pounces full force, slicing him through the stomach. Apparently, her drunken state is part of her abilities. With 6 warriors down, the wagering begins among the VIPs. The remaining warriors are the ox, rabbit, horse, tiger, rat, and dragon. Most wager in favor of the ox, who seems to have the higher chance of winning. The horse is still holed up in his little fort in the vault. He believes moving out of that place would mean being killed by the ox, but if he stays in hiding, the poison will likely kill him. As he tries to work out the next step to take, he remembers what he endured to become as strong as he is now. He went through different physical and scientific procedures, which produced the impenetrable defense technique, the stirrup. But he still got trounced by the ox, which, for him, was a disgrace. Lost in his thoughts, he hears a strange voice close by. The rat turns on the lights and challenges the horse to go out instead of hiding like a dead man. The rat introduces himself as Nezumi, the rat warrior, killing all. And the horse responds as Uma, the horse warrior, killing silently. As Nezumi leaves as stealthily as he came in, he advises Horse to leave the building as the snake will come looking for him there. The horse warrior is alone again and still pondering whether to leave as the snake appears in front of the building and sets it ablaze, killing the horse. The rabbit warrior has turned the monkey warrior into his puppet, and his first task for her is to retrieve the jewel from the already seared horse warrior. He now has two warriors, the monkey and the snake, at his beck and call. The snake and dragon warrior duo would have been a great threat to the other warriors if one of them hadn't died so early. They were twins who heisted and fought alongside each other for years before being selected to represent the dragon and snake warriors of the Tatsumi family in the Juni Taisen. Earlier on, when they arrived at the tournament meeting room, the elder Tatsumi brother, warrior of the dragon, warned the younger, warrior of the snake, to be alert. He's got a tendency to be wrapped up in his own ego. And unfortunately, his attitude didn't help him, as he died before the competition even started. The tiger leaves the side of the already dead sheep warrior and carries on in her drunken state to get more booze. As she moves along the street, she comes across the headless snake warrior standing before her. She's confused about how a headless person can be walking and ready to fight. But in her drunkenness, she's not very concerned about the details of a thing. The snake warrior unleashes his flamethrower on her, which she successfully dodges. But when she's had enough of hopping around, she moves in and cuts off the hand he uses to fire. Even with just one hand and no head, the snake warrior assumes his fighting stance, ready to continue. But the tiger isn't interested in a headless corpse. As she moves on to leave him, the ox warrior arrives on the scene and introduces himself, Ushi, warrior of the ox, killing systematically, and unceremoniously cuts off the snake's remaining hand. The tiger turns to face the ox in a duel. However, he's more interested in finishing the snake's corpse than battling with her. But he catches on that she seems to have a grudge against him, and he sees that he has to face off with her first. As they exchange words, the snake invokes his body's latent power to cause his amputated hands to strangle the ox and tiger. Surprised, the ox warrior is sure that it's his end, as the grip is firm and he can't get out of it. Left with no other choice, he asks the tiger for help, even in her struggling state. The tiger, being strangled helpless, is coughing out spit and whatever that flamethrower fuel was that she's been drinking. The ox knows how he can destabilize the effect of the grip, and if he can get them out of this, the tiger agrees to his deal. He throws his sword, creating sparks that ignite her flammable puddle of drool, and her face goes up in flames. Above, the dragon warrior watches, smiling at his brother's effectiveness even in death. The Tatsumi brothers were once called to appear before a warrior's tribunal for their misconduct. This was before they joined the Juni Taisen. The younger Tatsumi brother didn't show up for the hearing, leaving the elder brother to defend them and stand in for him. The prosecutor was asking that the Tatsumi brothers be censured for their behavior. At the warfront, the dragon warrior observes his brother's arms strangling the ox and tiger. He commends his effort for frying the horse with his equipment and now battling two of the strongest warriors in the tournament. He recalls how he and his brother had joined forces to steal all kinds of things and killed many people in the process. The prosecutor at the tribunal called them murderers and asked that they be treated as such. The prosecutor reeled out their many offenses, but emphasized the last one between two rival clients that hired each of them to protect their interests. Instead of the twins coming clean with the clients, they pursued their own objectives, which involved killing their clients. The dragon warrior's final rebuttal was to defend himself and his brother in the light of the upcoming Zodiac War. He reminds the people in the court that day that they will be going there to fight without mercy, which is no different from their current adventure. He was able to silence them with that and went home to meet his brother, who handed him the invitation to the Juni Taisen that he had received earlier. The dragon warrior returns his attention to the current Zodiac War situation and stares at his brother's headless and armless body on the ground. He sees the ox and tiger tactically set themselves free with fire and a temporary bit of teamwork. Now they are ready to finish what remains of the snake's body, but the living Tatsumi brother decides to join the party. The dragon warrior moves down to the ground to join the battle, but he meets his brother's head along the way. Unknown to him, the puppet monkey warrior saw him from the ground and threw his brother's head at him. As he's coming to terms with the fact that he's holding his brother's severed head, The rabbit warrior joins him in the air and slices him in half, turning him into another one of his puppets. The two halves of the dragon's body land on the scene of his brother's headless body, and he stands against the ox and tiger. The ox is surprised to see the torso and legs of the dragon standing apart from each other, ready to battle. Once again, he asks the tiger warrior to partner with him to defeat the 4 entities before them, if you're counting all the bits that make them up. The ox asks the tiger if she has a plan. She doesn't. He explains to her that the elder Tatsumi brother, the dragon warrior, is carrying liquid hydrogen. But before he explains what the coolant does or what she could do with it, the brothers' parts begin attacking them. The tiger battles the headless snake warrior, while the ox goes against the torso and lower part of the dragon warrior. When the tiger finally understands what the ox was talking about, she goes for the coolant on the back of the dragon warrior and pours it over the brothers. Immediately, they are frozen to death, and the ox only narrowly escapes being frozen himself. When they think they have time to rest a bit, the tiger senses someone else behind them and orders that he show himself. Without a zombie support team, the warrior of the rabbit, killing psychotically, comes out of his hiding place to face the two. They both go full force against him and shred him to pieces, swiftly. Now the alliance between Tora, the tiger warrior, and Ushi, the ox warrior, is over. They turn to face each other in battle, this time with no one to interfere. The tiger warrior once encountered the ox warrior long ago, and he saved her, carrying her like a child to a shelter. Because of this incident, she became interested in becoming a truly righteous warrior, so she trained and fought in multiple battles, but didn't once re-encounter her savior. When she's almost given up, her friend tells her about the Juni Taisen, and knowing that all 12 tribes would come for the war, she's hopeful to see Ushi, the ox warrior. She first has to go back to her estranged family to beg for their acceptance and to be allowed to participate in the tournament. Now she's in a battle with Ushi, and he doesn't recognize her, causing her to feel more enraged than ever. As they face each other to battle, the dead rabbit's hand comes from the ground and attacks the ox. The tiger warrior moves quickly to save him, but she is stabbed in the process. Ushi responds by cutting the rabbit's arm into pieces, but Tora is already on the ground. All the other parts of the rabbit's body start moving towards the ox to kill him, and he slices all of them. But that was only temporary, as they're regrouping again. Ushi lifts Tora onto his back again and runs off to carry her to safety. Helpless on his back, she remembers how he had carried her before and weakly asks him to put her down. But he refuses. He's paying his debt for her saving his life. Once they get far enough away, Ushi puts her down to attempt to control her bleeding, but she seems to have given up on getting better. She pleads for him to kill her, instead of her turning into another of the rabbit's puppets. But he agrees only on one condition, that they count it as a duel. Satisfied, she calls herself first, Tora, warrior of the tiger, killing in a drunken rage, and he responds, Ushi, warrior of the ox, killing systematically. Ushi stands over the mercifully dead tiger. He has killed so many people in the past, but his emotions are running high for this one. He attributes it to the fact that she looks like a naive girl he once met on a battlefield. He pushes those many thoughts away to honor her status as a warrior. As he waits for the rabbit to catch up, he wonders what the rabbit stands to gain if he wins as a corpse. He then concludes that this could be the advantage the rabbit has over the others. Everyone has shown that they can exploit the rules from the start, but he didn't have a game plan other than to follow the rules letter perfect. He looks around for fire to finish up the corpse when it comes, as that seems to be the only way to prevent the body parts from rejoining. As he's searching, the rabbit shows up and they go head-on against each other. When the ox successfully cuts away at the rabbit, he relaxes and doesn't see the monkey warrior leap out from within the mangled rabbit zombie. The monkey warrior has the ox pinned down, preventing him from moving, while the rabbit reforms himself. At that moment, Ushi knows he's helpless and can only escape his fate of becoming another of the rabbit's zombies by killing himself. He attempts to make a move to do just that, but she stops him, rendering him still more vulnerable. Nezumi, the rat warrior, appears on the scene just in time to use the time bomb he retrieved from the sheep warrior on them. He hesitates for a second, maybe to honor the moment, places the bomb, and leaves, making him the tournament winner. Dudakupel congratulates Nezumi on his win and asks him for an interview. Nezumi runs through 100 ways of avoiding the interview, but they all have pretty terrible outcomes, and he outright dies in 40 of them. He accepts and is asked to discuss his strategy. He mentions that he has the ability to think of 100 ways of doing a thing and experience it. Ultimately, he found only one path by which he could survive and thereby win the tournament, and even that only presented itself after teaming up with Sharyu. Amazed, Dudakupel commends his efforts and allows him to go home to rest a while and come up with his one wish as the tournament's winner. Nezumi returns to school, pondering the one wish he can ask for as his prize. As he enters his classroom, he meets his annoying classmates, who also can't stand his presence. He thought of just asking for a wish to kill them all, but he reconsiders, remembering his hard work during the Juni Taisen. A classmate approaches him and asks why he spends most of his days sleeping, as though he doesn't have a purpose. He thinks for a moment that he could wish that her skirt lifts, but dismisses the idea, almost immediately. He uses that opportunity to ask what she would ask for if she had one wish. To his surprise, she replies that she wishes everyone in the world would be happy. That sounds like a good idea, until he remembers that someone like the Rabbit Warrior's happiness would mean killing the whole world. On his way home, he contemplates bringing back the pacifist. She could cause a major change in the world. Once again, almost immediately he changes his mind, as that would be unfair to the other warriors. So he decides to bring all the warriors back. However, that would lead to a complete rehash of the Juni Taisen. As he lay in bed, he resolves to wish for good health, like the sheep warrior's one wish. But that means he would live forever, and he doesn't like that idea either. He remembers all the other warriors had straightforward answers when he asked them during the battle, unlike him who didn't have a clue. The tiger warrior was the only one who got her one wish, to make the ox warrior recognize her as a peer. When he asked the ox warrior about his wish, he directed the question back at him and added that he answer what his purpose is and his reason for fighting. As he ponders on his wish, he starts thinking of asking for one wish to have 99 other wishes. Yet when Dudakupel appears to ask for his wish, Nezumi angrily says he wishes to forget ever having to make the decision to choose a wish at all. The next day, he returns to school, satisfied with himself and serene. Thank you for sticking until the end. Subscribe for more videos like this.